Part 2, the devil's greatest deception, Darnel, aka tares. What and who are Darnel, aka tares? To understand the answer to this question, we must recall what we established in Part 1 and even add more context. We'll begin to address the question, what and who are Darnel, aka tares, in the last section of Part 2 here, and go deeper in Part 3. Why add more context, you may ask? It's the simple fact that this teaching requires as much scriptural context as necessary to understand what Yahushua taught about Darnel. Let's start with understanding that there is only one covenant Yahuah made with one group of people. If we don't understand this point, then the remaining of the written word will be taken out of context. When the word is taken out of context, leaven is invariably the cause. If not taken in context, it's impossible to create a scriptural narrative without leaven. We taught about leaven in Part 1, just like we've taught about leaven many times in other teachings. And this is particularly the warning that Yahushua gave about the scribes and Pharisees and beware of the leaven that they teach. So when leaven is added to the word, it fluffs it up, it makes it larger than what it is really meant to be. It includes things that are not meant to be included. So leaven adds air bubbles. It just makes it something that it's not. Understand this. There is only one nation in covenant with Yahuah. That's right. The covenant is with a nation of people, not with an organization. We taught about the nation of Yashar'El in Part 1. If you haven't listened to Part 1, please take time to do so. It's enlightening. But let that sink in, that it's one nation that's in covenant with Yahuah. One nation. The covenant is with a nation, not an organization. What is meant by an organization? An organization is governed by the teachings or doctrines of men. These teachings don't follow Torah, which is the covenant made with Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob. If Torah isn't accepted or followed without manipulation, or if it's taught that it's been eliminated, then it's not followed at all. What are teachings that don't follow Torah? Denominational and non-denominational doctrines, creeds, and statements of belief or statements of faith. Each of these are teachings of men. We'll teach more in depth about these teachings that don't follow Torah beginning in Part 3. Yahushua says this about the teachings of men in Matthew 15:9. But in vain do they worship me, teaching as teachings the commands of men. If any teaching doesn't align with the covenant between Yahuah and Yashar'El, it is a teaching of men. Here's a simple 2-question test. Ask yourself, am I following the covenant made with Yashar'El or an organizational teaching defined by men? If you are a member of a religious organization, is that organization a nation? So those 2 questions will begin to help you understand if you're in covenant or not. We'll address the answers to these 2 questions in Part 3, more in depth. Again, only one nation is in covenant with Yahuah. It's not an organization or system of beliefs. As mentioned in Part 1, that includes all those claiming an Abrahamic religion, so Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. These organizations, groups, systems of beliefs are not a nation. And that's a critical point. They're not a nation. They're organizations. They are a system of beliefs that are not in covenant with Yahuah as he established with Yashar'El. We'll address these 3 groups in subsequent parts of this teaching series in more detail. Yahuah's covenant is with a nation. That one nation is Yashar'El. And we who are Yashar'El are instructed to expect favor, be obedient children, and not ignorant, lusting after other gods as in the past. Yahuah expects that nation of Yashar'El to be different, just as he is different. So let's look at 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 13 through 16. Verse 13, Therefore, having girded up your loins of your mind, being sober, set your expectation perfectly upon the favor that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yahushua Messiah, as obedient children. So he requires obedience, not conforming yourselves to the former lust of your ignorance. What were those lusts? What were they ignorant about? They lusted after other gods. And so in this case, Peter is talking to the southern tribe, or the southern kingdom rather, of Judah, Yahudah. He is speaking to them specifically because they're the only ones that are left from the tribes of Yashar'El. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But they were warned about not giving in to their former lust for other gods. Don't be ignorant of the fact who the true Father is. Verse 15, instead, as the one who called you is set apart. The one here being Yahuah, say he's set apart, he's different. No one else is like him. So you also should become set apart in all behavior. So those who are linked to Yahuah, the children of Yashar'El, through covenant, he says that they should be set apart. They should be different in the way that they behave, because it has been written, be set apart, for I am set apart. In other words, be like me, be different. There is no one like you. You are the only ones that are in covenant with me, Yahuah. This difference has caused all other nations to hate Yahuah, Yahushua, and Yashar'El. John 15:23 says, he who hates me hates my Father as well. So Yahushua rather, is saying, the people who hate me, they also hate my Father, Yahuah. That's a hate for both Yahushua and Yahuah. In John 15:18, if the world hates you, talking about you, the southern kingdom of Yahudah, and you are part of Yashar'El, one of the tribes of Yashar'El, or the tribes of Yashar'El, says that the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. So this is one of those things about context. It's talking about the hate of Yashar'El and Yahushua. He's specifically talking about a certain nation of people. He is talking to Yashar'El. Then in John 15:24, if I did not do among them the works which no one else did, they would have no sin. But now they have both seen and have hated both me and my Father. Again, he's saying that those who hate him also hate the Father. So again, that's hate of Yahushua and hate of Yahuah. Let's now get into what this all means by breaking it down to 4 defining points. So first point, Yahuah established his covenant with Abraham. Here's what Genesis 12 tells us about Yahuah's covenant with Abraham and his descendants. Verse 1, and Yahuah said to Abram, go yourself out of your land. And he was in the land of Ur, saying, go out of that land, from your relatives, from your father's house, to a land which I show you. So he's actually sending him what would become known as the land of promise, the promised land. Verse 2, and I shall make you a great nation. So here's the promise. Here's the covenant. I shall make you a great nation and bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. He is talking here to Abram, saying that he would be a great nation. His name would be great. He would be blessed. And then in verse 3, and I shall bless those who bless you. Who is being blessed here? This is often used for the current nation and the people who are in the nation of Israel. The biblical name, or the Hebrew name, is Yashar'El. However, we have to look at what this says. And I shall bless those who bless you. And who is the you? The you here are the tribes of Yashar'El who were in existence at that time. The current people who currently occupy the nation of Israel are not the people that are being spoken of here. And we've discussed that many times. And curse him who curses you. And in you all the clans of the earth shall be blessed. So here again, this is the covenant that all the clans of the earth shall be blessed. All the people of the earth shall be blessed. So, second point, the covenant is renewed with Jacob. Yahuah doesn't change his covenants. He renews them. Make sure you understand that. He doesn't change his covenants. He doesn't stop his covenant. He doesn't stop the agreement that he made with his people. He just doesn't stop it and start another one. That's not the way he operates. Yahuah simply doesn't change his covenants to start a new one. He renews his covenants. In part 1, we read how that Yahushua renewed the covenant in verse 15 of Hebrews 9. And because of this, he is the mediator of a renewed covenant, so that death having taken place for redemption of the transgressions under the first covenant, those who are called might receive the promise of the everlasting inheritance. So yes, there was a first covenant, and Yahushua, the mediator, he became the mediator of a renewed covenant. Not a new covenant, a renewed covenant. The first covenant is acknowledged, but it is not replaced. It is renewed. The one Yahuah made with Abraham, the one that was followed by Yisra'Al, and the one that was renewed with Jacob. That covenant is the same one. Just because there is additional clarity about the covenant doesn't mean a new covenant. That's the issue with calling the New Testament new, when it actually is a renewed covenant. How do we know? We just read in Genesis 12:3 that all the clans of the earth shall be blessed when Yahuah was speaking with Abram. Now, look at what Yahuah tells Jacob in Genesis 28:10, verse 10, and verses 13 and 14. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And see, Yahuah stood above it and said, I am Yahuah, Elohim of Abraham, your father, and the Elohim of Yisra'Al. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. So here, this is the same thing that he told Abraham. He told him to leave his land where his fathers were and his relatives, and he's going to show him a land where he was going. This is that land. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. In verse 14, and your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all the clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. So again, we see where all the clans of the earth will be blessed in his seed. We see where the land is being given. And so this is the renewal of that covenant. That covenant that was made with Abraham, this is the renewal. We also read the same account in Jubilees chapter 15, verses 3 and 4. And Yahuah appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am Elohim Almighty. Approve thyself before me, and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. So again, the covenant is between Yahuah and Abram, which Yitzhak followed, and renewed with Jacob. This is the only covenant made with a nation where a land was given, and that the whole world essentially will be blessed because of the covenant with Yahuah, with Yashar'El. Not only that, contrary to popular belief and teachings, this covenant, Torah, law, this law was never replaced. Yahushua made it clear that the covenant was not destroyed. Matthew chapter 5, beginning with verse 17. Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah and the prophets. So here he states very clearly that he didn't come to destroy the Torah or the prophets. And we'll talk more about the prophets and their role and what they say about and to the children or the nation of Yashar'El. It's important to understand what they were led to say, what they prophesied. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. So he didn't come to destroy it, he came to complete it. For truly I say to you, till the heaven and the earth pass away. So the heaven and the earth have not passed away. So 1 yod and 1 tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. So nothing passes away from the Torah. Nothing passes away from the law. Nothing passes away from this covenant that Yahuah made with Abram and his seed. It doesn't pass away. It still remains. Verse 19, whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so. So this is very condemning. So to break the commands that are in the Torah is condemning. It's detrimental. But not only that, but even those who teach men to ignore the Torah, that is not a good thing for men to teach others to ignore the Torah. So shall be called least in the reign of the heavens. So those who break the Torah, those who teach others to break the Torah, they shall be called least in the reign of the heaven, in the kingdom of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom or the reign of the heavens. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall by no means enter into the reign of the heavens. What was incomplete in the Torah? The fact that the blood of animals could not remove sins. That's what was incomplete. Animals were not the ultimate solution for removal of sin. The blood of animals was not the ultimate solution. Only the blood of Yahushua, the perfect sacrifice, can permanently remove sin. That's the good news. The good news is that Yahushua's blood was shed, cleansed our sins, and we don't have to have animals sacrificed for us once a year because he did it once and for all. And as we read in Hebrews chapter 9 in part 1, that fact is affirmed. The third point, Yahuah established his law with one nation. 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a people for a possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. A nation that stands apart from all other nations. That's what this verse is talking about. This is where context matters. Who is the chosen race? Who is the royal priesthood? Who is the set-apart nation? Who are a people for a possession? It's Yashar'El. That's why context matters. It's not talking about anyone else. It's talking about Yashar'El. They are a nation of people that other nations are determined to wipe out. In Psalms 83, we see where it's talked about how the nations are looking to destroy Yashar'El. 83, beginning with verse 2, says, for look, your enemies make an uproar. And talking about the enemies of Yahuah. And those hating you have lifted up their head. Who hates Yahuah? The Gentiles hate Yahuah. They craftily plot against your people and conspire against your treasured ones. They have said, come and let us wipe them out as a nation. So wipe out the nation of Yashar'El. Let's wipe them out as a nation. And let the name of Yashar'El be remembered no more. So this is specifically these nations, these people that hate Yahuah, the Gentiles, the other nations other than Yashar'El. Their desire was to wipe out Yashar'El. Their desire is to wipe out Yashar'El as a nation. And so that their name is remembered no more. That was their desire. That is their desire. For they have conspired together with one heart, and they have made a covenant against you. So again, who are the enemies? They are all the other nations that are not Yashar'El. They are Gentiles. What distinguishes Gentiles from Yashar'El? Gentiles worship another god or gods. They don't worship Yahuah. And even if they were and do call on Yahuah, they also call and worship other gods. Otherwise, they would be grafted in to Yashar'El. But know this, Yashar'El is the only nation that worships only one El, only one God. They're the only ones. The only ones that have been in covenant and are in covenant to Yahuah or with Yahuah, and they worship him. So how is Gentile defined? Let's look at what it says here in the lexicon. And it is defined as nations not worshiping the true God, pagans, Gentiles. Yahuah did not establish his covenant with Gentiles. He established his covenant with one nation, Yashar'El. Fourth point, Darnel take on characteristics of wheat. In this case, Darnel takes on characteristics of Yashar'El, but are not in covenant with Yahuah. Because the world largely doesn't know who the true Yashar'El are, they have been indoctrinated to believe a lie. They see those who appear to be spiritually connected to quote unquote God, and they appear to be the chosen people as Yashar'El is, but they are not. They're not Yashar'El. They're not spiritually connected to Yahuah. Remember, the covenant is with a nation, not an organization, not a system of beliefs, other than the covenant that was made with Yashar'El, the Torah. And to simplify that, it begins with the foundation of the Ten Commandments. No one and nothing else has that same connection as Yashar'El, the nation of Yashar'El. That point is significant as it determines how we worship and serve Yahuah. Why is that point so important? Because the covenant Yahuah made with Yashar'El never ended. If it hasn't ended, then it is still in effect. There is a common belief that does not measure up to the written word. What is that common belief? Some think Darnel or tares, aka tares, refers to those in the church who teach false doctrine. We'll uncover the real role of the church as it relates to Darnel in part 3. Again, Darnel is the same as tares. It can take time to discover and uncover truths. That's why 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verses 20 and 21 instructs us to prove all things, or in other words, to test all things. Verse 20 says, do not despise prophecies. Prove them all. Hold fast what is good. So prophecies here is defined as teaching by divine inspiration, declaring the purposes of Yah, revealing things hidden. And prove is to test, examine, prove, scrutinize, to see whether a thing is genuine or not, to recognize as genuine after examination, to approve, deem worthy. So essentially, to test. We need to test to make sure that what is being taught is true or not. What we read in the scripture, how does that align to truth? And the fact is, for what we're teaching here in this particular series, Yahuah made a covenant with one nation and not an organization or system of beliefs. What does Yahushua say about Darnel? As mentioned earlier, context matters to fully understand. When Yahushua speaks, he is speaking to Yashar'El. More specifically, he is speaking to Yahudah, aka Judah, the southern kingdom of Yahudah, or as we have been taught and as we read in this present day, the southern kingdom of Judah. But Yahudah is the actual name. The northern kingdom of Yashar'El had been exiled and never returned. At this point, there was no northern kingdom when Yahushua was speaking. So we know that he was talking specifically to the southern kingdom. We'll address this point more in part 3. But again, in Matthew chapter 13, 24 through 30 and 36 through 51, Yahushua talks about Darnel, and the context here is that Yahushua is speaking to the southern kingdom of Yahudah, consisting of the tribes of Yahudah, Benjamin, and Levi. He is not speaking to the church because that organization or system of beliefs did not exist yet. He is not speaking to those who practice Judaism because that organization or system of beliefs did not exist yet. And he is not speaking to those who follow Islam, because that organization or systems of beliefs did not exist yet. See the theme here? They had to be in existence for him to be talking to, because he was talking to a specific people, a specific nation, the nation that is in covenant with Yahuah. Yes, I am intentionally being very redundant as it relates to making the statement to help us understand that there is one covenant that Yahuah made with one nation, and that is Yashar'El. It's important for us to understand that, because that sets the context of what Scripture is written about. Yahushua is speaking and talking to people who are members of a nation and not an organization. Matthew 13 is filled with several parables, verse 24, because that is where it starts talking about, Yahushua starts talking about Darnel. And it reads, another parable he put before them, saying, the rain of the heavens has become like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed darnel among the wheat and went away. And when the blade sprouted and bore fruit, then the darnel also appeared. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did not you sow good seed in your field? From where then does it have the darnel? And he said to them, an enemy did this. And the servants said to him, do you wish then that we go and gather them up? But he said, no, lest while you gather up the darnel, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the end of harvest, I shall say to the reapers, first gather the darnel and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my granary. Now, skipping down to verse 36, then having sent the crowds away, Yahushua went into the house, and his taught ones came to him, saying, explain to us the parable of the darnel of the field. And he answering said to them, he who is sowing the good seed is the son of Adam. So Yahushua is the one sowing the good seed. In verse 38, and the field is the world. So this is very important to understand. This again is about context. So Yahushua is sowing the seed, and the field is the world. The field is the world. So the entire world is where the seed is being sown into this field, everywhere. Remember the covenant with Abram, and the one that Yitzhak followed, the one that was renewed with Jacob, Jacob. That covenant is the one where it was stated that the entire world will be blessed by the nation of Yashar'El. That's the field. The nation of Yashar'El is going, or will end up in the field, and the field will be blessed. The world will be blessed by Yashar'El. Then he goes on to say, and the good seed, these are the sons of the reign. So the sons of the kingdom. The good seed are those who are following or keeping the covenant, the Torah. These are Yashar'El, the sons of the reign, the seed of Abram. But the darnel are the sons of the wicked one. Darnel are the sons of the devil, of Satan. They are teaching something other than what's in the covenant that Yahuah made with Yashar'El. They are teaching something that's false. Verse 39, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. As I just said, darnel, the sons of the wicked one, or the sons of the devil, the enemy. He is the enemy of Yahuah. And it goes on to say, and the harvest is the end of the age. So at the end of time, at the end of the age, when Yahushua returns, that is the harvest. And when the harvest occurs, then what we see is the darnel, they are taken first. Darnel's taken first. And then Yashar'El. Continuing, And the reapers are the messengers. So the messengers here are the angels. The reapers are the angels. As the Darnel then is gathered and burned in the fire. So this is what happens when Yahushua returns. Darnel, those who are teaching something other than what's in the covenant with Yahuah and the nation of Yashar'El, they are Darnel. And Darnel will be thrown into the fire. Darnel will be burned in the fire. Goes on to say, so it shall be at the end of this age. The son of Adam shall send out his messengers, and they shall gather out of his reign all the stumbling blocks, everything that's causing a stumbling block, everything that's preventing the connection of Yashar'El, or the connection of Yahuah with Yashar'El through the covenant that he made with them, and those doing lawlessness. So we've talked about this before. Anyone not following the law, keeping the Torah, is called lawlessness. That's what sin is. Sin is lawlessness, not keeping the Torah. That is lawlessness. Verse 42, and shall throw them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. You can read the rest of this chapter in the parables that are contained here on your own. But what do we see here as it relates to Darnel? So what do we see here? What is it telling us about Darnel? It's telling us that the good seed has been planted by Yahushua and is planted in all the world. That good seed is Yashar'El. It's planted in all the world. And that also aligns with the covenant made with Abram, followed by Yitzchak, and renewed with Jacob, and also renewed again by Yahushua himself. We see that Darnel is planted amongst the nation of Yashar'El. They resemble the nation of Yashar'El in terms of what they follow, what they teach. But as we've read and as we see and as we have come to understand what the people who look like, organizations that look like and appear to be in connection with Yah, they are not, because they have added leaven and they are a false nation, because they're not a nation. The covenant was made with a nation, not an organization or system of beliefs. And Darnel, their fate is destined to end in fire. The fires of Hades. They will end in the pit of fire. That's their end. They will be gathered up by angels and thrown into the pit. He is saying that there is a difference between the nation of Yashar'El and anything and everyone else. Take time to read this. Get it into your spirit. Understand what's actually being said here. In part 3, we'll begin to take a deep look at how the covenant of promise relates to Christianity. So we're going to talk about these Abrahamic religions, beliefs, those who are associated or say they're associated with the teachings of Abraham, the covenant of Abraham. The first one we'll look at is Christianity. And we'll look and see, we'll take a deep dive and see how that relates to Darnel. It will be eye-opening.